Star Trek Day gives us a lot of news about every show, so rather than making 5 or so videos going over every panel, I'm going to make one video going over everything, and all the announcements from the show, small and large, with just 1 or maybe 2 larger videos coming out later, with the big Picard and Strange New World trailers. After the pre-show news that Jean-Luc Picard is in Season 2 of Picard, and it is a Star Trek, the stream opened with the wonderful Star Trek Day trailer, followed by Jeff Russo and the Star Trek Orchestra's 55-year musical tribute to the franchise, which apparently just meant playing the modern themes plus the First Contact one. However, the First Contact theme was particularly beautiful performed live, and is clearly what made Sarek cry in TNG. After that, Will Wheaton and Mika Burton come out to hype Strange New Worlds, because everyone just seems to want more TOS. Afterwards, they promoted Charity via telling people about the stream on Twitter, which is actually a really clever and great marketing strategy. Next, a transporter clone of Will Wheaton interviewed Alex Kurtzman, who was busy having a vacation in Spain. I mean, shooting a show. Still in Spain though, so I have my doubts. But most notably, Kurtzman finally properly announces Starfleet Academy to the non-paying public, by seemingly assuming we all heard about it from the New York Times and have been talking a lot about it recently. Must have been the part of the fanbase that doesn't use Reddit. Interestingly though, when asked about new series, he implies we'll keep the shows we know about for quite a while, stating instead they don't want to oversaturate things or put underdeveloped or unworthy ideas on the air. But now for the stuff we really came for, show announcements. Paramount decided to start with Prodigy by bringing out series heads Kevin and Dan Hageman, who annoyed me by constantly referencing a fall release. Captain Janeway also called in, presumably having a secret Spanish vacation as well, and led into our first proper trailer. This series looks genuinely fun, cheerful, and even hints at classic Starfleet exploration type episodes along with its presumably serialized plot. Not to mention it seems quite good comedically, and should be a great laugh. We also got more of Rock Talk and Zero's amazingly unexpected voices, and I will never get over how great they are. But most relevantly, Dan and Kevin made up for their past behavior, announcing an October 28th release date, giving us a week off after Lower Decks and before Prodigy. We also get a look at the series poster, apparently called Key Art, and what a fine-looking ship the Protostar continues to be. Finally, a cast interview followed, and we learned D. Bradley Baker is a classic childhood Trekkie, and how the show uses the freedom of a largely unknown Delta Quadrant to bring kids into this rich new world, both in and out of the show. In the middle of all this, Murph spoils the finale of the series, and Dan Hedgeman further ensures the show doesn't pander down to kids, even going so far as to say, kids are smart, often smarter than adults. When asked what words describe Prodigy in relation to the rest of the franchise, the panel members gave the answers adventure, optimism, fun, growth, become, pride in who you are, open-minded, hopeful, empathy, self-validation, a new perspective, looking outside in, joy, and absolute joy. Steven Universe 2.0, my mental health is ready. Press every button until one of them goes pew pew pew. Next up, Surik Lofton, also joining Janeway and Kurtzman in Spain, gives a pastor-like sermon about how great Deep Space Nine was while I try and figure out if it was all pre-recorded and scripted or live. Seriously though, it would not surprise me to learn he's now a pastor. A chef, apparently. His space grandfather would be proud. Jeff Russo then returns, explaining why Classic Trek was left out of his 55-year tribute musical by playing the Deep Space Nine theme. It was more beautiful music, but unfortunately left out the words. It's Deep Space Nine with Jeffrey Combs. It's Deep Space Nine with Jeffrey Combs. After that, Michelle Paradise, the executive producer who ironically burned Paradise, Wilson Cruz, Blue Del Barrio, NB's Unite, and Ian Alexander join us for the Discovery panel. Wait, Discovery got a new showrunner for season 3? I guess that explains how it grew the beard. Anyways, I assume Anthony Rapp didn't want a family vacation to Spain. Our trio proceeded to vomit familial love, gay energy, and joy all over the audience throughout this panel. That's a good thing, by the way. They promised more Grey and a corporeal Grey, and described the TNG-like family mentality to go along with this on-screen family. Wheaton strongly hints at some ship's counselor-based Culber challenges in Season 4, while Cruz also suggests the season is a tribute to the real-world medical staff of the past year. No concrete Discovery news, but this is an interesting topic I bet most of us didn't expect after seeing the teaser. Then I urinated as the stream took some time to browse Twitter, and when I came back, they announced Saru would be on the show with an arc. arc, so probably is a major character. And finally, a November 18th release date flashes up on the screen. And then the panel starts teasing a major announcement, and then they announce the release date. So the graphical overlay team clearly has a job opening if you're interested. After that, Anthony Montgomery comes on and tells Paramount off for not playing Faith of the Heart or even an Enterprise song as he walked on stage. He then judges the script he was given to read. 10 out of 10, best Trek actor of all time. After Blue, of course. That's non-binary law. I have no choice. Jeff Russo then comes back on and plays the beautiful Archer's theme. That one's understandable as he conducts an orchestra and not a band, but he would have gained my lifelong respect and admiration if he had at least attempted Faith of the Heart afterwards. And now the big one, Strange New Worlds. Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Rebecca Romin, executive producers Akiva Goldsmith and Henry Alonzo Myers, then came on for Strange New Worlds, which, judging by the crowd and staff's reaction, was the reason everybody showed up to the event in the first place. Ethan Peck starts off by accidentally turning legacy characters with legacy characters. But by far more importantly, Spock's viewscope. Anson then hypes a sexy captain's quarters that bruises everybody's shins, overshadowed by exploding flaming consoles teased by the executive producers. The jury is still out on whether or not the sets wobble if you lean on them. And just before the big news, they describe an around-the-kitchen-table captaining style, which was the best part of Discovery's second season with Pike. But then, of course, we get to that weird and wonderful cast announcement trailer thing. We're greeted with an incredible take on the original series sets that is a truly brilliant adaptation of the 23rd century aesthetic in every way Discovery wasn't. Christine Chappell and Dr. Mbengal are announced as main cast members, and Discount Jeffrey Combs plays a white Andorian. Yes, I know about the Anir, but they don't actually confirm that, and I legitimately thought that was Jeffrey Combs announcing his role as Dr. Boyce before he said his name, so I'm actually kinda disappointed. Nurse Chapel is definitely a highlight announcement, but I've just realized her and Number 1 were originally played by the same person, so that could be fun. Afterwards, Akiva obviously describes exploring Nurse Chapel and Spock's past relationship while utterly failing to hide that it's their story he's talking about. And presumably because he did so badly hiding it, Ethan Peck then gets permission to spoil Spock's feelings of love and attraction, while Akiva then talks about Spock's emotions in more Discovery and Q&A style Spock. Look, Captain Pike is great and amazing, but everything he brings to Strange New Worlds is cancelled out by Ethan Peck's Spock, which just doesn't work in this place in the timeline. I've only been able to headcanon Discovery's second season by assuming he wipes his memory of Burnham, and therefore his childhood emotional education, before the TOS crew takes over in an effort to hide the secret of Discovery's survival. Vulcans are absolutely emotional, but this particular character doesn't even understand the basic concept of irritation and, quote, one of your human emotions, when we first see him, after this version of Spock. And this is exactly why I find it so hard to get hyped for this otherwise apparently outstanding show. At least they end off by Akiva speaking of their efforts to explore current social issues a la TOS specifically. And finally, the Twitter people come back again and talk about how excited they are to see Uhura in Strange New Worlds, and wait, what? How did I miss that the first time? During my frantic searching of the video on Twitter for confirmation, Janeway then comes on again from Spain to share the Prodigy trailer again? I was happy though, as it gave me time to confirm that yes, I was in fact an idiot about 10 minutes previously. At least I got to catch Mike McMahon spoiling, and I quote, baked potato, for Lower Decks. So that should be interesting. But finally, after getting some dinner and hoping Mike McMahon was listening to the Lower Decks anime murder aliens pitch, the world's sexiest man, Garrett Wong, actually outranked someone for once in his life and introduced the Voyager panel, so Jeff Russo could play yet another beautiful theme live. Getting back into action, everybody's favorite Kurtzman replacement, Mike McMahon, Noel Wells, Eugene Cordero, and Jerry O'Connell come on and joke about Paramount Plus's hilariously inconsistent episode release time. We also learned Jack Quaid is joining the Great Spanish Vacation after kidnapping Tony Newsom and starting an ice cream stand on the beaches. I'll be honest, I thought this whole Spain thing was a joke I invented as well until this panel. Mike McMahon promises craziness for the rest of Season 2 with an even bigger last few episodes than Season 1, jam-packed with 100 Star Treks. We also learn he is the Gary Mitchell obsessed writer which answers a personal mystery once and for all. We then then turned to Tendi and Rutherford to learn about their real-life and on-screen friendship, again channeling some famous TNG energy. And as a highlight, we get a freshly painted and massive spoiler-free mid-season trailer. Jokes, references, and more classic Lower Decks action, but notably a refit Constitution class exploding and some TOS Mirror Universe fighting. No Cetacean Ops though, putting my pre-made thumbnail art stockpile in jeopardy more than LeVar Burton. There wasn't much new information given with this show as they're currently halfway through a season, but this cast is clearly a massive bundle of joy and a great pleasure to just watch chat about anything. And so after that, it was time for Captain Sulu himself, George Takei, to come and talk about how great TOS was for a bit, then presumably feel really old at the 55th anniversary of his show listening to the absolutely classic TOS theme. I mean, I know how I'll feel sitting with my partner in Bozeman, Montana 2063 surrounded by a bunch of other cosplaying geriatrics. Next up was the surprise highlight of Rod Roddenberry, George Takei, Gates McFadden, and LeVar Burton showing up to throw the Great Bird of the Galaxy a 100th birthday party, briefly discussing a charity art project I'll try and link in the description, as well as their first memories of Gene Roddenberry. Never have I been so interested in listening to a story about George Takei taking a shower or pregnant ducks. A panel well worth looking up after this video thanks to the host's stories of meeting Gene and his incredible vision. The vision which is the reason we are all here right now. Truly a celebration of the core of the franchise and its fans, and even I learned new things and different perspectives surrounding the franchise during it. After the previous panel massively went over time, not that I cared, LeVar Burton returned to the stage to talk about how TNG was great and lead into Jeff Russo's final live cover of a classic theme. Forget waiting for my partner, I want to go rewatch all of TNG right now. Speaking of wanting to watch The Next Generation, Paramount ended the broadcast by inviting Jerry Ryan to the stage, who showed off the new trailer after explaining how Patrick Stewart was also in Spain, presumably with the rest of the show's cast. The trailer revealed Q went back in time and made the world a totalitarian nightmare, and Picard will use the Borg Queen to go back in time, because the slingshot effect was too hard, I guess, and travel to the 21st century. Expect an in-depth reaction and analysis video shortly, because this one gives me some thoughts. Will and Burton then officially announced Season 3 to nobody's surprise, given that this was the original plan when the show was pitched, and they've reportedly been filming it alongside Season 2. Issa Brones then wraps everything up singing her beautiful cover of Blue Skies from Season 1, causing the Picard lovers to join in the crying the Picard haters started throughout the previous trailer. Because nobody actually talks about Picard in this panel. I mean, we got a trailer, but that feels kinda weird after all the other panels. Plus, Stewart and Goldsmith were scheduled according to the Star Trek website, and whether you loved it or not, ending with a dark and depressing Picard trailer was an interesting decision, as it basically killed the mood and hype for me in a way not even Strange New Worlds Spock could accomplish. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this year's coverage of Star Trek Day. You should be able to hop over and watch my reactions to the Lower Decks episode that aired after this stream, or subscribe to catch the analysis and discussion of the Picard trailer, as well as the Strange New Worlds cast announcement if there's enough demand and or I have the time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.